Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our daily word this morning, this Thursday morning. It's a bright, sunny day. Not sure it's going to continue like that given the forecast, but it's a beautiful morning this morning and a great time for us to gather for our daily word and our conversation surrounding scripture and how we apply it to our lives and what it means for us and just our conversation together and our challenge to be in community together. As always, I'm grateful that you've chosen to be with me, either right now or whenever you have a chance to watch. And I'm always grateful that you're able to say good morning and offer greetings as you arrive into our daily conversation. So today is daily word number 878. And so last night at our Lent Wednesday night, we talked about faith and we talked about the entirety of Hebrews chapter 11. And we talked about faith being at our core. We talked about who our ancestors of the faith are and how they inspire us. Just this morning, I had a conversation with someone about the ancestors of faith in our church and who they are. And some of them have gone before us. Some of them spent a short time with us, and yet others of them are still in our midst. And, when we gather on Wednesday nights, it's a pretty eclectic group. We have from the littlest person, Hudson, who's not two, probably. He's not two. He just turned one not that long ago. To our oldest person's 91 or 92. We have folks who have been at St. Paul's for their entire lifetime. And last night, we had a brand new person. She's been in church once, but her very first time to gather on a Wednesday night. And it's an incredible thing, this conversation that we're able to have around the circle as we talked about faith and our ideas of faith, our thinking about faith, how faith is at our core. It's a variety of things. And so when I got home last night, I was thinking about our conversation and what all of that looks like. And a couple of folks said to me afterwards, Jim, I don't know about my faith. Sometimes I have a hard time recognizing it. Sometimes I have a hard time even realizing if I even have any and how I'm supposed to put it to practice. And I said to them, just keep looking, you have it. And then it dawned on me what else Scripture has to say about faith. And I've chosen that text for this morning from Romans chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. We hear these words: I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, on the basis of God's mercy, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable act of worship. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, and what is acceptable, and what is perfect. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think, but to think with sober judgment. Now hear this, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. Each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. I believe wholeheartedly, with all of my being and all of my faith, that we are born, from the time we exit our mother's womb, we are born with a measure of faith that God has assigned us. Now, the good news for us is that that measure of faith doesn't stay where it's at, but that we grow it. And it becomes a guiding force for us. It becomes a part of who we are. It becomes how we guide our lives. It becomes how we're strengthened. We talked last night about as we have faith, that we then share it with others as ancestors. And I talked about my ancestors last night, who I believe played a big role in my growing my measure of faith. And I talked about my grandchildren, my 5 grandchildren who I want to be their ancestor in faith. I hope I am. I hope I'm their ancestor in faith, that they'll look back at me someday, sorry, and say, their papa, help them grow their measure of faith. And that's so important to me. But then I also thought about it last night. So like I talked about, we go from just over 1 year old to 91, 92 years old in this gathering of 30 folks around a circle. Some folks who have been at St. Paul's forever and a day, since day one of their lives. And then last night, the brand new person. And the three ladies sitting over on the side together, I told my wife, they're going to give me a run for my money. But they're brand new. And they're so eager to explore their faith, and talk about it. And we have such great conversations. And for them, and for little Hudson, he has a great family of faith, but for them and for Hudson and I want to be their ancestor of faith too. I want to help them grow their measure of faith. It's important for us to recognize together, friends, that we've been given a measure of faith. As Paul says to the Romans, we've all been assigned this measure of faith by God. The question is for us, what do we do with it? How does it inform us? I want my measure of faith to make a difference, in everybody at St. Paul's and other folks who I meet. To the brand new person last night who came to her very first Wednesday night, and then we couldn't find her after the conversation. She was back in the kitchen helping clean up, growing her measure of faith. For us, the scripture says to us that we ought to think about ourselves with sober judgment, meaning that we ought to look deep inside of ourselves and think about who God is for us and how God's working in us and how God is shaping our lives and growing our measure of faith, and then how we share it with others. It's an incredible thing, this gift of faith that we've been given, and how then we are called to share it with other people. And so if you're doubting, if you wonder, geez, I wonder if I have any faith at all, I can't find it. Look, Paul assures us we've been given by God, assigned a measure of faith. It's up to us to grow it, though. And we do it best in conversation with other people. We do it best, I believe, gathered in worship with other folks. We do it best gathered around the table, on Wednesday night. We do it best gathered in the half circle, or whatever we like to call it, on Wednesday night. We do it best by gathering today, like we do every day at 10 o'clock, and we just hear about how God works in us. And then I think our measure of faith is grown when we share it with others. So look, I know, that many of you, Aunt Joe, you're part of my measure of faith. You're my ancestor in the faith. That's who I want to be. For little Hudson, for my grandchildren and my children, for everybody gathered around the circle on Wednesday night, for everybody who gathers periodically, whenever it is on Sunday morning. I want to be that ancestor and to ask God to grow my measure of faith. And I think that's what we're called to. So thanks for joining me for our time together. Thanks for always gathering with me. Thank God for our measure of faith. Thank you for being with me and being an ancestor of my faith and helping me to share it with you. So as always, I pray you'll know of God's love that surrounds you, know of my love for you, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day, my friends.